Hello everybody, today we're going to get a quick look into IBM SPSS Statistics 21. As soon as you open up the software, a window is going to pop up for you quick. Just a couple options for us. First one is to type in data, second one is to open an existing data set. So we're just going to start off with that quick. Alright, so the first thing you're really going to want to know about SPSS are the two main views that we're presented with. The first one is data view. Obviously in this view all of our data is going to be displayed. So then at the top we have the variables, in this case species, body weight, etc. And then below that is all of the data. The other view is variable view. And this view, as you would expect, all of the variables are going to be displayed, and you can basically edit most things about the variables. So we just have a few things here: label, values, columns, how many characters you want in the variable, just quick things like that. And we'll get into those a little bit later, a little more. All right, we'll go back to data view then, select the data, and the third sort of main view that we'll be dealing with is output view. So I just ran descriptive statistics, came up with another window for us, and then on the right you can see some charts that have been displayed, and on the left is the output view. So output view is going to give a log basically of everything that you have done running the programs. Now output view always opens up in a new window, and so when you try to exit out, it's going to want you to save the view every time. So for this case I don't really need to do that. Now another common practice we'll need to do when using SPSS is to import files from Excel. So to do this we're going to go File, Read Text Data, and then you're going to select the file that you want, but first you need to tell it what type of file it is. So for Excel, it's going to be .xls, .xlsx, etc. And then you're just going to select the file. Something important to note about this is that it's going to have an option for you to have the top row be your variables in the data set. So you just want to make sure that checkbox is checked, and then you should be good to go on that. So in this case, we have the cat species, origin, coat, and pattern as the variables, and those were simply the top row in my Excel document. Now sometimes you're going to have raw data that you'll need to input yourself into SPSS. To do this, you can either select type in data when you first open the program, or go File, New, Data. And this is just going to open up a blank sheet with nothing in it at all. So it's just a clean slate for you to begin with. So we see the variables there at the top, and then in variable view there's still nothing. So to start things here, I'm just going to type in a few variables. In this case, we're going to have the dog type, dog weight, and food consumed. Something important to note about variables and when you're typing them in is they cannot contain spaces. So you can see here I'm putting in underscores in all of the names, and that's just because in these two particular views, spaces are not going to be allowed as acceptable characters. So we can change that in a little bit, and I'll get to that. So now our data, for the different types of dogs, we're actually going to put in numbers in this case, and that'll be useful in just a second. Numeric values have much more flexibility when running tests and just doing anything typical with data that we'll be using. So we're just going to set 1 equal to Chihuahua and 2 equal to Great Dane, the two types of dogs that we looked at in this study. Alright, so we'll change that in a second, but just put in the other variables quick here. So if we run descriptive statistics now, you'll see that in our charts, in our data, 1 is going to be displayed and 2 is going to be displayed, and it does not know that these are dog types yet. It's just displaying them as numeric values, and we can change that in just a second here. Okay, so of course it's going to ask if you want to save, and I don't this time. Okay, so we're going to go into variable view to change a couple things here. First one is the values. Okay, so this is where we're going to set 1 equal to Chihuahua. We'll do that quick, and then 2 equal to Great Dane. So just input the value there, label there, and then click add. And we're going to do this for both of them. Adding values to variables is going to be extremely useful when we look at large sets of data. So you can see up there that it's changed in the value section, but not at all in the data. 1 and 2 are still displayed instead of Chihuahua and Great Dane. So if we run descriptive statistics again, you can see that instead of 1 and 2 being displayed, it's going to say Chihuahua and Great Dane, which is exactly what we want for this case. You can still notice though that dog type and dog weight are still using underscores, and that might not be very useful or very understandable when we have numerous variables that are going to be similar in name. Okay, so if we want to change that, we're going to go back to variable view once again. Okay, and then we're just going to change a label. So click in the label section of the dog type box, and we'll just type in type of dog instead of dog type. And this label can contain spaces, which is going to be a little more helpful for us. We'll do the same thing for dog weight and then leave food consumed so we can see the difference there. So if we go back into data view and run descriptive statistics again, alright, then you can see that food consumed still has an underscore in it down there on top of that chart. And then if we scroll up, type of dog and weight of dog have changed to the label instead of the name, which will be helpful getting deeper into SPSS, using it more to its full abilities. Okay, so we'll just exit that, don't need to save it again, and there we go. Sometimes we're going to want to create a new variable that is dependent upon other data that has already been entered into SPSS. So if we look at the data already entered into this document, you can see that there are golf scores for 4 rounds of the tournament for several golfers. Now we want to know the total score of each of the rounds and then the average score. So we want to put those in new variables just to the right of all of this data. So to do this, we're going to go back into variable view, and then we're going to go transform compute variable, and this window will pop up. So in the target variable box is where we're going to type in the name of the variable that will be new. So in this case, total score. And then to the right of that is the numeric expression box, which is where you're going to type in the formula to get the number that you want to be displayed. To do this, we simply use the number pad underneath the numeric expression box and then drag in each of the variables that we want to display the new one. Okay, so we just hit OK. And go back to this view, and did it pop up for us? Yes, it did. There we go. So we have the total score of each of the rows underneath each variable. So now let's do the average score. Go back into variable view, transform, compute variable, and then we're going to type in a new target variable because this is going to be a new variable now. So for this case, average score. And then we can either put some parentheses around these, since we're simply going to divide all 4 rounds by 4, which we'll do in this case. Otherwise, we can just put in the total score variable and divide that by 4 since it's already up there. But we're not going to do that in this case because then the average score variable would be dependent upon the total score. So if we would delete the total score, the average score would go away as well. Okay, so we'll go back. You can see the new variable is there, and there's average score.